This video is brought to you by Captivating History. The Khmer Empire, also known as the Angkorian Empire, ruled over a large part of Southeast Asia between the 9th and 15th centuries. If you've heard of the Khmer Empire, you're likely to think of Angkor Wat, the biggest religious structure in the world. Located in Angkor, the capital of the old empire, is also the lesser-known but archaeologically impressive Bayon, a great Buddhist temple. These are only a couple of examples that testify to the wealth, power, cultural, and aesthetic achievements of the Khmer Empire. What we know of this ancient civilization is in the stone monuments they built that have lasted all this time, and the scattered documents in Old Khmer, the language of the lower class of the empire, and Sanskrit, the language of the elite. We also have writings from other sources, like the Chinese diplomats who visited and the travelers and traders who went through the region. There are also reliefs and art that depict scenes like military marches, markets, and various other activities folks would have participated in. What we do know of the Khmer Empire was that it was vast. It had cultural and religious systems with monuments built in their name. They had a strict hierarchy of power, and they were one of the most formidable empires to come from this region of the world. The founder of the Khmer Empire was a man named Jayavarman II, who would crown himself king, or Raja. We'll be discussing Jayavarman II more in a little bit. Before the Khmer Empire, there were two other kingdoms in the region, Funan and Chania. The Khmer Empire would grow to eclipse both. Jayavarman II would first conquer the many kings or Rajas in the area, and in 790 would dub himself Deva Raja of Kambuja, or the king of the Khmer Empire. His son, Yasovarman I, would go on to create a new capital in this empire, Yasodharapura, which would later be known as Angkor. Both of these rulers were devout Hindus, but were tolerant of Buddhism. The first kings would even finance Buddhist monasteries. Buddhism would not become a dominant religion like Hinduism until the 12th century, but both religions would change over time, assimilating part of each other. The state would even change religious sites to reflect this. The sites themselves wouldn't change, but depending on the religious trend of the king at the moment, the sites would alter slightly in religious affiliation. Jayavarman VII would be the first Khmer king to make Buddhism a state religion, and while he wasn't the first Buddhist king, he did choose it as the official religion. Because of the constant changing of faiths, many temples in the area may be Hindu with Buddhist elements, like Hinduist gods with Buddha's influence, or Buddha depicted with Hinduism elements. And it's important to remember that Hinduism and Buddhism are not monolithic religions, allowing for such variations. For instance, Jayavarman VII was a Mahayana Buddhist, but his son, Indravarman II, would become a Theravada Buddhist after 10 years in Sri Lanka. So even though two Khmer kings in a row would be Buddhists, the shift from Mahayana Buddhism to Theravada Buddhism would not be insignificant. Today, over 90% of Cambodians identify as Theravadan Buddhists, but many still retain significant Hinduist elements. Still, it's still important to remember that more rural populations practice many local religions, and some are still practiced today. Religious tolerance during that time was also a good diplomatic tactic. The Khmer Empire was between India and China, two prosperous trading routes, and two countries with different religious sensibilities. Before Suryavarman II became emperor, there had been a period of chaos in the Khmer Empire, with three individuals claiming to be the unified ruler at once. Still, Suryavarman II was a great unifying king, and after a great victory on the battlefield, he became the ruler of the unified lands of Cambodia. He settled down in Yasodharapura and set about standardizing laws and expanding his territory. He was also the first king to establish diplomatic relationships with China formally. One reason we know what we do about him. The writings of Chinese diplomats were essential in curating this historical record. Suryavarman II wanted to distinguish himself from the kings who came before him. They had left a legacy of chaos and disorder. He found that religion was likely the best way to make his name, so he chose to principally worship Vishnu over Shiva, who was considered to be the supreme deity. Suryavarman II built temples for him, with many in northeastern Thailand, like Panam, Rung, and Pimaj, still standing today. But his most impressive monument to Vishnu was Angkor Wat, the biggest religious monument in the world. Angkor Wat is a tomb, a monument, and an observatory. Also depicted on Cambodia's flag, the only country in the world to have an ancient monument shown on their flag. Angkor Wat was initially meant to serve as supposed Jayavarman II's tomb, but it later became dedicated to Vishnu. In the 12th century, it was converted into a Buddhist temple. Even though Angkor Wat wasn't completed during Jayavarman II's lifetime, he undoubtedly set his mark in Khmer history as an impactful king and a creator of one of the most iconic temples, not just in the region, but in the world. Unfortunately, after his death, his immediate descendants once again fell into a pattern of disorder. One of the next greatest rulers would come with Jayavarman VII. As discussed earlier, Jayavarman VII was the first king to make Buddhism an official state religion. He was only the second Buddhist king in the history of this empire. He was considered a radical king with a tenuous claim to the throne, but one of the most powerful Khmer monarchs of the empire. The Champa people had a history of invading the Khmer Empire, and in 1177, the Champa successfully attacked and pillaged Yasodharapura, killing the previous king Tribhuwana Jayavarman. Jayavarman VII led the Khmer Defense Army, ridding the region of the Champa people and claiming himself as the killer of King Jaya Indravarman. Historians disagree, but regardless of who killed the Champa king, there can be no denying Jayavarman's leadership and victory. There is very little historical information about the period between this victory and his coronation, leading historians to believe there may have been negotiations about who would be the next king. Jayavarman VII, 1180 to 1220, rebuilt the outer walls, placing his temple mountain, the Bayon, at the redesigned city center. While the legitimacy as king remains in question, once established as leader, he brought about great social changes. His first priority was building a level of new infrastructure that was previously unheard of. He constructed temples, roads, bridges, reservoirs, and more. Unfortunately, he used a lot of the building supplies up, emptying the quarries. Many structures were built of earth and non-durable materials, leaving no archaeological remains to be found. Still, many of his building projects were very successful. For example, he was the first Khmer king to build hospitals. Around 102 were constructed during his time. He also built extensive canals and reservoir systems for the fast-growing agricultural society. During the 14th century, evidence points to Angkor's large population and expansion throughout Asia, creating serious ecological problems, including overpopulation, erosion, loss of topsoil, and forest clearing. Most importantly, an extensive agricultural expansion to the north increased erosion, causing a buildup of sediment to the canal and reservoir systems. This led to a decline in food production as well as economic stress for the Khmer society at all levels. Droughts did not help, and a significant sustained one occurred in the mid-1300s. Just before 1431, significant battles occurred between Angkor and neighboring kingdoms. The empire experienced a slow but constant decline in population between 1350 and 1450 AD. Historians agree that many factors contributed to the demise of Angkor: wars with Ayutthaya, societal conversion to Theravada Buddhism, an increase in maritime trade, removing Angkor's strategic lock on the region, overpopulation of its cities, and climate changes that brought extended drought to the region. It's difficult to pin down the precise reason for Angkor's collapse because of the lack of historical documentation at the time. Sanskrit carvings from the Polites temples, as well as reports from trade partners in China, detail much of Angkor's history, but little is written during the late 14th and early 15th centuries. It seems that history draws a blank slate in that regard. But eventually, the Angkorian ruling class moved their capital to Phnom Penh, switching their main activities from inland crop agriculture to maritime trade. Still, the drought and subsequent failure of their water systems, as well as interrelated geopolitical and economic factors, kept the Khmer Empire from returning to stability. Cambodia continued to flourish after the decline of the Khmer Empire and continues to this day. Remnants of the Khmer Empire continue to draw people in and fascinate them, leaving millions of people in awe of their achievements. To learn more about the Khmer Empire, check out our book, The Khmer Empire, a captivating guide to the merged kingdoms of Cambodia that became the Angkor Empire, that ruled over most of mainland Southeast Asia and parts of southern China. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.